Hello there, this is Warpath1985 speaking, and also a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, etc. For it is the Christmas Eve special, and for the Christmas Eve special, I am discussing the Transformers Net Warriors Devastator. So when it comes to Devastator's character, as I like to establish first, as always, and etc. in most of my videos, and I also like to exclude the fact that he has G1 character, yada yada yada. As Devastator, the character is pretty weird overall, mainly just because his characterization in the G1 cartoon was very simple. However, he did understand that Devastator and bodies such as the Decepticons were also very flawed, in the sense that obviously these were bots who were originally architects, they're constructors, etc. They love to create. However, due to the fact they were brainwashed by the Motormaster, no, they're all about destruction. Generally carrying out acts of, mass, general chaos, etc. Generally, due to that, Devastator is obviously, very destructive. And for that reason, you also get this unique kind of characterization in future interpretations where you kind of lean more to that melancholic angle to his characterization where, due to that, him being the only combiner for a while, he was also an outcast in most of the Cybertronian society for being the only combiner and the only one to do so, technically Cybertron as well, but also being very destructive due to various reasons, either due to obviously the fact, the Decepticon, but also by exception, could also be due to accidents, could also due to mass hysteria, could also due to fear. Generally, that characterization of Devastator is very interesting, kind of leaning more to that angle, seeing in the general cartoon where, the Constructicons were forcibly brainwashed to become what they are really seen and most popularized as being villains. And because of that, it's inherently very interesting. Besides that general characterization, something I'd like to mention that is a huge deal with Devastator, that being the figure size. Because keep in mind, although yes, I can admit, I will say it with general forces and everything, that by fat technicality, the 86 Devastator is a better figure. Overall, I can say that. With full general, I forget what it was, but general just honesty. However, my feeling towards 86 Devastator is the general same feeling I have for most combiners overall. Certain obvious things seen with Devastator is that the 86 version that I feel like is such a huge problem with all of them is that he's too small. Because keep in mind, he's always been portrayed as the biggest combiner ever. With the exception of other characters like Predaking, mainly just because his presence is much larger because he has a much bigger, backpack. Because his weapons, backpack, wing pack, whatever, has the wings from Dive Bomb and the cannons also from Dive Bomb again. But you have to also understand, because of that, Devastator still has a bigger presence because in all his appearances across the entirety of all Transformers media, he's always been portrayed as large and huge, ginormous even, something much closer to that of a Titan really, in size. But still, he's always been portrayed as the largest combiner ever, and has a general menace to that also. But due to that, it's lost so much in the Studio Series version, to the point where I was so disappointed in the fact that I thought, really, because they were re-releasing Siege Omega, might I add, they re-released him to coincide with Devastator, and I felt like, okay then, this thing is obviously going to be scaled with Omega Supreme, because what else would they re-release beyond just the obvious fact that people wanted to have a chance to get it again? Because I did. And by extension, you would assume that since these figures are, once again, so expensive now, that people can't barely afford most of them at this point, or even kids can afford them at this point in today's day and age. That's a third discussion might add. You would assume that 86 Devastator would, relatively speaking, be either the same size as Combiner Wars Devastator, if not larger. Unfortunately, he was not. In fact, he was slightly taller than Motormaster and the recently released Superion. And for that reason, I never got it. I didn't get any of these Decepticons at all. And might I add, I found all of them at Target. I found all of them at Walmart. With exception obviously the Combier class, but still. And I kept on passing on them because I was like, it's not worth it. Because the figures are, yes, they look really good, they pose really well, but they're so... The combined mode is so small that what is the point of me getting it for the combined mode? Because keep in mind, the big selling point for all these is the combined mode. And if the combined mode is so small, what is the point of me getting it in the end? For whatever reason, I just couldn't really justify getting the 86 version, mind you. But yeah, that's my general reason why I never really got the 86 version. Why I prefer the combined wars. So I've seen that version more. But I'll get into it a little later for recommendations later. But yeah. But with that aside, the figure itself in general combination is surprisingly really simple. However, it is also pretty tedious. Because the biggest parts that are probably the most difficult to combine are actually probably the most weirdest ones. Because keep in mind, with most Devastators, you have to have everything in a certain place, have all the figures be in a certain order of operations for them to really properly combine with one another. And for that reason, it's actually really difficult to combine most Devastators in general, because Devastator is one of the handful of combiners who has a very not difficult combination, but difficult in the sense that they're so overtly not traditional for other Scramble City combiners. Keep in mind, most combiners are based around the Scramble City gimmick. Because that Devastator is the outlier of him being like the only one of all of them that has the most abstract and unconventional combination. Even though, yes, it is still easy, you have to like really fight with most of this. Now, this is improved with the Combiner Wars mold, which speaking. It is still not the funnest in general. However, the knees are so much more secure versus the original mold. Because, oh my god, words cannot describe how much I despise the knees in the original mold. Because keep in mind, the original mold for Devastator is pretty good overall. Like, it has aged, relatively speaking, pretty well. However, due to the fact that it has such bad knees, make it such a really difficult pill to swallow to own one. Because like, oh yeah, I finally have you in Devstator, but it can't stand up. But with the Combiner Wars mold and subsequently the 86 mold, they fixed that, and oh my god, it is such a huge difference. Because I got the G1 mold at Devstator before I got any other modern ones. And for the reason, I can tell you, like, it is such a relief that with these newer molds, they fix all those problems. Now you can see, yeah, the combination of this guy, relatively speaking, super easy, a lot better than the G1 version. a lot more secured also as mentioned beforehand with the knees. But also it's a lot more unconventional in comparison to your Superions and Motormasters, Bruticuses, and etc. Where all the also by extension, Predaking, all of them are functionally, in a sense, very similar to the classical, or sorry, let me word that again. All of them are Scramble City bots. For that reason, all the kind of transfer the same, all of them kind of function the same, etc. However, you gotta understand that obviously the design philosophy and how they wish to combine, Devastator is the only one who combines this way. With the exception of, like, technically Predaking, because he combines very similar to Devastator. Also not really. But yeah. It's definitely this mold, even though yes, it is still very flawed because it likes to shake a little bit. It is so much better for the eventual mold. Much better mold. Yeah, after all that talking and combining each other, this thing wants to like combine here. Too much is still like very difficult doing all that serious stuff, trying to get the chest plate to like stay right. Once, because there's usually like these little tabs here on the side that connect to the legs. Okay, got it. They're just super close, like tab in there. But yeah, there is Netwars Devastator. Relatively speaking, Netwars Devastator, such the Combiner Wars mold, is technically the smallest Titan ever. By a fat, once again, technically a margin, because keep in mind, Predaking's also the same size as Devastator, which is accurate to as portrayed in the cartoon, comic books, etc. However, keep in mind, this is accurate to the cartoon, comics, etc. And I'll just show off the size also once again before getting to other features, etc. Because again, I want to get this side because very speaking, this video is going to be pretty long. So here is the original mold with the Combiers mold. As you can see, it is dwarfed. It is dwarfed by a generous margin. And here are all the Dinobots in comparison with the Combiner Wars mold. I mean, this is the not worst one, once again. But yeah, you can see like how ginormous this mold is in comparison. Because keep in mind, the Dinobots are individually. Let me just like grab my like tape measure here. I think I scaled my like what 7? No, 8. Each individual Dinobot, broadly speaking, is like 8 inches tall. Devastator is like a whopping 18 inches, right? Like 18, right? 8 inches? No, 17 and a half. He's 17 and a half inches. Right? Let me just do it again. No, he's just flat 17, sorry. He's 17 inches tall. With the exception of his scoop, obviously, but still. He's 17 inches tall. And because of that, he dwarfs all the Dinobots. And that's fantastic, really. Because obviously, Devastator is, once again, the tallest combiner ever, but also supposed to be taller than pretty much everybody else around him. Relatively speaking. So yeah, that's pretty cool that he goes very well with all these guys. However, I like to show off technically the third, right? Sorry, the fourth one, because the fourth, so the number one smallest Titan is still Star Convoy, second is Devastator, third is technically Predaking, even though both of them are the same size, mind you. Third is technically Predaking because his wings and his backpack also give him a bigger mass. But fourth I do have here, in comparison here, is Tidal Wave, who is about, I want to say like 19 inches, right? Like close to 19 inches. It's like barely, like almost 19 inches with his like head crest. Not head crest, but it's like horn. I don't know. This kind of crest, but still, you can tell that these two are very big. Still, I'm gonna like put them up again. So my ad is still like 8 inches tall. Still, once again, dwarfed. So yeah, pretty good in my first opinion. But still, generally speaking, in modern tank class scale, whatever, scales pretty well. Most of them. And relatively speaking, it's not the smallest overall, because I'll still go to Star Convoy. But with that all aside, I'd like to showcase this video here that I filmed of all the Titans together in comparison, because yeah, I couldn't fit all that in there because I have like what? Yeah, 6. I have like 6 Titans in my possession. And as you see, they are all very big, and none of them can fit in frame at all. It's hilarious. But the final comparison I'd like to have before we move on to the figure itself, because I'll just show us off here. Here is Devstator with his arch nemesis Omega Supreme. I want to have a better comparison with him here. I'm just like fix it. And yeah, they scope really well as well. Perfect. So yeah, that is pretty cool overall. The deal. Both look pretty good together. And for other comparisons I have here would also be these two Combiers. Holler and Grapple, and if I can reach them, because I have like all my figures all over the place. Hoist and Lift Ticket. Let's like forget his name. But generally, for the features the thing does have, which are actually pretty substantial overall, except like Cybertron, Devstator. There we go. The first one I'd like to mention that is a feature, that being the flip up shades, really, the visor can flip up to reveal the 2 individual eyes, which, if you don't know, Devastator was shown to have both his visor and his eyes in the cartoon. He's in with both of them. This is kind of reflected by the original figure, which had 2 individual eyes instead of a visor. I think you saw that, I don't know. There you go. But yeah, that was supposed to kind of like reflect both from the cartoon that I swapped between both models. It kind of seemed problems fall under with Grimlock, with them having like 2 models. A toy accurate, much solider, sharper model, and a softer one they made for Sumbo. So sorry, but general toy made by that's Forwardery. This Forwardery, can't remember. So many different artists in part of this, but yeah. That's an interesting gimmick, and he's the only Devstator that has that gimmick. To be honest, he's the only one that has it. Technically, there's 2 different versions of Devstator that do have those different heads. The Barmer's one and the San Diego Comic-Con version, both that has those different heads. But this is the only one out of this mold that has that visor. I might add this will be reused as general gimmick for a lot of different chest members beyond this figure. And be curious, was the first one? I don't think so. I think it was animated. Some of its sort of animated figure had that gimmick. I think it was like Cybertron animated had that figure. The figure had that general gimmick. But yeah, the other gimmick you do have that's not more unique gimmick for just storage is that each individual Decepticon weapon can be combined to these large like blocks, really. And it's pretty simple overall. It is difficult, mind you, to put all of them together because they all kind of clash with one another. So it does make it really difficult to have all of them. If I can try and there you go. Remember which way to go. To fit here, because they all fit. The weapons fit in the ports here, where the missile launcher / the hands used to be. Just go there. Yeah, they all store here, which is super cool. That he has that, and all the combined form just look like yeah, super cool. That will be carried over with the 86 version as well, thankfully, because this thing does not have any sort of storage. You have to pretty much shove all the bits here. And also, I realized that without his crotch. Yeah, there you go. There's one with the crotch, which I completely forgot it even had in the first place. God, this thing is so weird. But yeah, neat but weird. The fun thing in that Devstator can do before getting the articulation is that obviously he hold on to his weapon, like his blaster. Unfortunately, the figure has this weird, almost looseness to it, even though it was bent. Yeah, it's just super loose. And it's ratcheted, mind you, it's soft ratchet. But yeah, it is bummer that it is super loose. Yeah, this holds his position overall. As long as you don't need to move it, really. But generally, the articulation of the figure is actually pretty good overall. He has a wrist swivel, pretty good ratcheted shoulders, which are frictioned as well from outwards, the forward backside. It has ratcheted elbow bend here, bicep cut, over the hands, wrist swivel, right there. This is reflected the same over here, however, Bone Crusher's arm, Bone Crusher's side technically, he has much more range at the elbow forward, and technically it's pretty much the same, but has no ratcheted elbow here, unfortunately. But for the rest of the body, functionally, if you saw my long haul review, so it's the previous one, pretty much it is exactly the same, with the exception of these weird parts here, which, yeah. Mighty powerful hit points, which are very loud, which sure good thing here. The knee bend of long haul can be used to have a bigger kick forward. See right there. Not so much back, really. It's cool, mind you, but the problem with it is that it kind of looks really weird. It has the same problem with what was it? Older Star Wars figures. Sorry, it was older Transformers, with older Transformer hip articulation, where they have knees that bend down here. So yeah, it has that same general thing going on here, but at least due to the sculpting, it looks natural. My camera can focus. When I did the sculpting, it looks natural. It's impressive, mind you, because usually it never does with that point articulation. But yeah, you do get a lot more range with that joint there. You get this very deep knee bend. That is impressive for a time to have that deep knee bend. For most of them, you do not. With the exception of a few, but for most of the ones that during this time, do not. I think might be wrong for Fortress Maximus maybe, can't remember. But yeah, very deep knee bend. However, it is given to scrappers, and just due to like kibble, it like flashes here, like one false foot, so it, like stops right there. So yeah, unfortunate, but at least it works. But for the ankle joints here, they're pretty good. They're your standard Titan like ankle joints where they do the job, essentially. They don't go that far, but they do the job. But for the legs, feet, I'm gonna see that tap here. But for the waist joint, it's ratcheted too. Just like trying to get those off. But it's a very squeak ratchet. Yeah, it's very squeaky. But it does go pretty far overall. The articulation, not that bad. It was actually probably the best articulation for a Titan at the time, really. For a while until we got like, what was it, Predaking and Mega Supreme, who was still not the greatest, generally speaking, because mass. But relatively speaking overall, it's not that bad for articulation. It's just the fact that due to the second time ever, he's very rickety. But still, he holds on to everything pretty well. But yeah, that's all for the Christmas Eve special. I don't have anything else to really say about where's Devastator. Overall, it's pretty comparable Devastator figure overall. My first opinion is probably the best one. Seen by the fact that he scales well over anything else, he articulates pretty well. His presence is also pretty well comparable and very good in general. However, it is like still very flawed. Like obviously, that is like problem, the looseness in the elbow, and genetically the rickiness. That is once again him being second time ever to be expected. But overall, he's pretty good. And I do recommend this figure, particularly the Night Wars version. Only Night Wars version. Keep in mind the Combiers Wars version is probably the worst one to get because it is prone to break, particularly at Scrapper here. However, with the Night Wars version, it is so much more sturdy. It is so much more sturdy. Including all the Asian war roads with them being all of them a lot more secured and a lot more sturdy. Not fragile either. I simply just recommend skipping the Combined Wars and Ascending Comic Con version. If you want to get those, you can. But you have a much worse time in general with those guys. But I just recommend getting the Night Wars version because once again, a lot of these are going pretty cheap now due to the 86 version, again, in general being released out there, whatever. People are trying to get those, so they're selling their versions. If you're not Wars, Devastator, because they're pretty cheap now. I got this thing for like $180, it's pretty good. So yeah, go ahead. It's right there on eBay for like what, $200, so a lot cheaper in general. But yeah, that's all for the Christmas Eve special. Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I should see you tomorrow for the Christmas Day special, which obviously is gonna be on a certain Omega Supreme. With that, I shall see you next time.